Yo people, welcome back to another video. Now this time the WWE Backlash review, and overall this show was mid. Literally everything went exactly as it should have, with no real surprises apart from maybe the first match with the debut of Jeff Cobb. Now I always say that this pay-per-view is a waste of time because there's no way any relevant champion loses their title 1 month after WrestleMania, and that was the case for our newly crowned champions as of WrestleMania. This pay-per-view is too predictable and they barely did anything to make us believe otherwise. The sad part is that Jey Uso versus Seth Rollins on Monday Night Raw was a much better match than anything on this pay-per-view. But anyways, let's go through this lackluster pay-per-view. Now, one thing before I start is that all the matches were at least decent. There was nothing that was too awful apart from one match, which was Gunther versus Pat McAfee, but we'll talk about that later on. So let's start off with the US title Fatal 4-Way match, and overall it was alright. But I really didn't like that the match basically turned into two one-on-ones between people who already had feuds at WrestleMania. I think that it was quite boring because I would have liked to see someone like Jacob Fatu go and fight Damian Priest for a bit, or Drew McIntyre for a bit, as an example. And then we got shown that it would be even more of a predictable ending when Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre went through those tables in the middle of the crowd. I'd say that the strongest parts about this match were actually when all four men were in the ring hitting moves on each other. We did have some decent near pinfalls, and the surprise came when Jeff Cobb made his debut as he was summoned by Solo Sikoa, and yet another Bloodline member has joined WWE. I think we all know now that Jacob will get turned on by Solo and Jeff as they push to make Jacob one of the top babyfaces on SmackDown, because the guy literally gets cheered the most. Even in this Fatal 4-Way match, he was the most cheered and the most chanted throughout the whole match. But yeah, pretty interesting going forward since Jacob looked concerned about Jeff's arrival at the end of that match, so at least there's that storyline to look forward to. The next match we had was Lyra Valkyria versus Becky Lynch for the Intercontinental title, and for me this match was kinda boring, although one thing I will say, as someone who doesn't like Lyra, this was probably her best match in a while, so fair play to her. But again, nothing shocking, nothing surprising. Even the ending was a bit dry. She won because of a roll-up, and it's almost like they just rinsed this roll-up garbage with her character. I'm pretty sure she beat Raquel Rodriguez for the Intercontinental title in a one-on-one with the same roll-up as well. As for the ending, I personally thought that Bayley would come out and cost Becky Lynch the title, or attack Becky Lynch when she started attacking Lyra after the match. But nope, none of that. We won't get to see any of that, and for me, it's a missed opportunity because this is a pay-per-view. They will probably go on to do this on a regular Monday Night Raw. We then got the men's Intercontinental title match between Dominic Mysterio and Penta, and this match really wasn't pay-per-view level because we've already seen it at least 2 times on Raw, and it just felt like a copy paste. We know what's gonna happen. The Judgement, they are gonna go around the ring, they're gonna do stuff, and then Grande Americano, he goes in, costs Penta the match, and Dominic wins, and that is exactly what happened. I will say though, Dominic did live up to being champion in this match, and he is actually one of the few superstars on the roster that is actually evolving and expanding as time goes on. His trajectory is still going upwards. That dive out of the ring into a DDT for him was crazy, so fair play to him. You can tell he's been putting in the work and he deserves this push that he's getting. One other small thing that I like that he did was the Oblivion, which was cool to see, and I wouldn't mind if he started using it going forwards. I do think the next rivalry with AJ Styles that got mentioned on Monday Night Raw will be the match we get at Money in the Bank, and I believe this will be where Finn betrays Dominic and joins AJ Styles, but I'll have a whole theory video about that coming up this week. But yeah, overall, this match was alright. So far, the common theme from all the 3 matches I've spoken about is that they had awkward or slow endings, predictable endings, and things could have been improved in terms of ending it. Next up was the throwaway match between Gunther and Pat McAfee, and this was putting me to sleep. I'm in the UK, so for me, this match happened at like 2 AM, and this was pure manure. I thought the only reason they'd actually even do this match was because someone would come out to save Pat McAfee and Michael Cole. We were hearing names like Goldberg. If it wasn't Goldberg, then they'd have someone else to go and save the day. Or if it wasn't any of this whole save the day business, then you'd have Gunther beat the shit out of Pat McAfee to keep pushing his heel run, his heel look, which would then force Pat to have a storyline injury and we won't see him for a while. But instead, We got none of that. Instead, we got Gunther, a heel, showing respect to Pat McAfee. Gunther started this feud and he ends it shaking Pat McAfee's hand. After this, I've signed off from Gunther stocks. I never had any invested, but I just thought, okay, there's stuff you can work with here. Gunther can get pushed. His title reign was boring, but you can still work with stuff going forwards. But nope, I'm convinced Gunther has done something behind the scenes to piss off Triple H, and now he's being punished. He's meant to be this big bad heel, but in the space of like 6 months, 8 months, he shook Cody Rhodes' hand after losing to him. He got tapped out by Jey Uso at Wrestlemania 41 after that boring reign with the World Heavyweight title. And then he even gets trolled by the crowd now for tapping out. And on top of that, he decides to do this whole signs of respect thing for a commentator that he had beef with. So yeah, overall, I'd argue that this was one of the biggest wastes of time for a pay-per-view in history. Now, last but not least was Randy Orton versus John Cena. Randy Orton showing why he's one of the GOATs of this industry, and he carried John Cena and worked with him well in this match. He helped Cena when he needed to. Cena as well, he did his thing. To be fair, he was less rusty than at Mania 41, but overall, shout out to Randy Orton. This match as well, in general, was just better than the one that we saw at WrestleMania between Cody and Cena, which shows you didn't need The Rock or Travis Scott to make them have a good match. But again, we need to question Triple H and the booking, because this match at Backlash was better than the main event of WrestleMania Night 2. And there was no cameos, no overhyping anything. Literally, it was just R-Truth. But apart from that, the match itself was actually booked better. As for this match, there was a lot of finishers, close calls, and the last parts in particular were more interesting. I don't like how much John Cena is rinsing that belt over the head move, but it is what it is, it's whatever. R-Truth coming out to save John Cena was something that people were predicting, but for me it felt a bit stupid. Like, I understand they've been building up to this on SmackDown and everything, but it's just not for me. I understand it, I guess, funny, whatever, but just not for me. The refs as well. When Randy Orton would pin Cena, they'd basically have a stroke and not do anything. But when Cena pinned Randy, the refs were making sure they were there for the count, like their lives were depending on it. At this point, with the inconsistencies that we've seen with the referees in the Cody match and in this match, I'd actually like to see a storyline where the referees for John Cena matches start to get investigated for corruption, and maybe have this tied to the final boss. He's working his magic, he's paying the referees to keep John Cena at the top in return for John Cena selling his soul. And another thing, I know a lot of people were upset because they thought Cody Rhodes would arrive at Backlash and cost John Cena or do something, attack John Cena after the match or something. But yeah, overall, it was a pretty predictable pay-per-view. They should really not do a pay-per-view in between WrestleMania and Money in the Bank, because usually this is what happens. Everything goes according to plan, as predicted, nothing really happens, nothing really changes. And if anything, they use this type of pay-per-view for some sort of big return or some shocking thing in the main event. But none of that really happened this year. There was nothing special to write home about with this pay-per-view in general. But yeah, as always, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. What did you make of Backlash 2025? What was your favourite match? What was your least favourite match? Or what did you hate the most? What did you like the most? Anything like that. I'd also appreciate if you could leave a like on the video and sub to the channel. Thank you for your time.